President Trump isn't just talking about tax relief. He's talking about rewriting the whole tax code.
Next year is projected to be the largest tax refund season ever, and we're going to be giving back refunds out of the tariffs because we've taken in literally trillions of dollars, and we're going to be giving a nice dividend to the people. The money we're taking in is so great, it's so enormous, that you're not going to have income tax to pay. Whether you get rid of it or just keep it around for fun or have it really low, much lower than it is now, but you won't be paying income tax.
Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with my co-hosts, Taylor Riggs, Brian Benberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for this hour, Great Hill Capital Chairman Thomas Hayes. Great to see you. Not only is the White House promising Americans a lucrative tax refund season, it says, the president, that they can expect Americans tariff dividend checks as well. But no more federal income taxes? Feels like a pipe dream. The president insists that his tariff windfall is big enough to fund the government, cut the deficit, and still put money back in the pockets of voters. Critics will argue, it's not just critics, we don't need to put it in the frame of critics. I'll argue that the math doesn't add up. This is a classic President Trump, be big, be bold, force Washington to defend a status quo that most Americans cannot stand. And with inflation expected to ease in 2026, we could be entering phase 2 of an affordability push. So while Americans dread tax season, it may soon become the most wonderful time of the year. Brian Benberg, to you first on this. I'm holding a big announcement in my mouth.
You're not pregnant.
There is something to be said. No. There is something to be said, though. Why half of the country doesn't pay any income taxes.
True.
So why have this vast monstrosity of forcing them to fill out paperwork?
Oh, yeah.
And file, and then you get a refund, and there's something that he is piecing together here, and it's not quite coming out. But well, I sense something.
I sense things, too. Look, I want to just stop and celebrate the fact that in the White House you have a president saying, let's get rid of the income tax, because you would not have had that under the previous president. They wanted to double down. Actually, they wanted to make it worse by doing wealth taxes. So I like the idea of no income tax. I like better, and you've mentioned this before, because tariffs are sort of this, I like a consumption tax better than an income tax, because I'd rather tax consumption than work and investment. So the president is putting out, I think, a great idea in principle. I don't think it's going to happen. I agree, it's not going to happen. It's not realistic. I don't think, and again, this is sort of my non-lawyer analysis of what's going to happen with the Supreme Court. I don't think a lot of his IEEPA tariffs are going to stand. I don't think that's a big problem for him because he's got other ways to do it. But I do like the one thing he's doing here that I think is super important, because they haven't done enough this year, is they're saying, wait until you start to get your refunds from the big, beautiful law, the big, beautiful bill, because it is going to be big. You're going to feel it. And it's going to change your whole tax picture for the coming year, which is why you got guys like Kevin Hassett and Scott Bessent saying 2026 is going to be a bonanza. So from the president's lips to God's ears, no income tax. I don't know if the Lord's going to answer that prayer just now, but it's a great idea.
Can I do the math here for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so federal receipts.
I'll hold up this handy chart.
For the Department of Treasury.
Oh, I can see that perfectly.
It's a little small for me. But the federal receipts overall were almost $5 trillion in fiscal year 2024. Of that, the individual aspect of it was $2.43 trillion. So if we're talking about tariff revenue right now of roughly $300 billion for the year, no, the math doesn't add up. But Brian, I agree with you. The sentiment is there that the president wants to do as much as he can for working Americans. And what I love about this, and we talk about it, is that it is work incentivizing. Go to work, you can make money, you can keep more of it. And that is what people want to hear. You know, we talk about handouts, we talk about entitlements. Even Joe Biden said, you know, job is your dignity, and that is important to people. I don't think most people really want to sit on the couch and take these entitlements, but they're a little bit lost and they're a little bit stuck. So what the president wants to do is incentivize them not only to work, but create a growth engine in the economy where the opportunity to work is there. And that is what's happening here. Now, if they're right, the administration, and in 2026, you have a gangbuster year because people are getting their refunds from no tax on tips and the new policies that were implemented in the big, beautiful law, then that's going to contribute to the growth engine as well. Remember, I said this is a wheel. It's got a lot of different spokes, this economic policy overall. As these spokes come together and that wheel starts to move, I think you're going to really see something amazing. And the haters are going to have to turn around and admit that they were wrong on this.
3 quick points, and I want you to weigh in on this. I mentioned this last week. A lovely man in my building the other day came up to me and he said, can you tell me more about no tax on overtime? Because I'm working Thanksgiving and I'm doing double time and I'm working a little bit extra and putting an extra shift. How does that work in my paycheck? And so we kind of went down the math. And I kind of alluded to, like, you'll get a lot of money back when you start filing taxes. And he looked at me and goes, ooh, that sounds good, right? I could have that money. I could deserve that, or really it'd be nice to have. The other part to this is this sort of folds into the Michael Dell announcement when we talk about income taxes. We joke that our alma maters call us and they ask for us to donate to the foundation. And my response is always, I can't because the government's already taken half my money. Sorry, I have no money left.
Actually, they do call them.
If the federal government were to lower my taxes, I would bet, the same way Michael Dell just bet, that they would give more money directly to people, to charities, to foundations, to whatnot. So I would have control over how my money is spent, and I would give it back to those in need much more than I do now, because the government is, I think, more wasteful in their resources and how they distribute money than I would be personally. But here's the other end of that, Brian. I just want to challenge you.
Okay.
Do you really want a consumption tax? If our economy
that was
is
the part I wasn't
60
into.
or 70% based on the consumer, that's how our GDP is. If that's what's
I'm
powering,
saying no income tax.
But if that's what's powering the economy, is it consumption tax, which is what the lower income...
Consumption doesn't power our economy. Production does.
Yep.
Okay.
And the income tax penalizes work.
Okay.
The consumption tax penalizes consumption
But-
or buying of things.
Would we-
You want to, if you have a consumption tax, you create incentives for work. And what President Trump did with the tariffs, I've said this over and over, it's a sliver of a value-added tax.
Yeah.
It is a sliver of a consumption tax. So there's great economic theory that undergirds what the president is doing. He won't say it.
Right.
Brian, knock it off.
Wait, but we already pay sales tax.
What she said, Taylor. What she said.
Guys, serious. We already pay sales tax. In New York, it's a little bit over 8%, right? So you see that when you make purchases, at least of clothing, for example, over a certain amount, or of food and beverages and all those other things we consume. So how much more can you add to that where you would need to offset what we were talking about, the trillions of dollars that you think people can absorb? I guess he's looking to cut on the other end, so you would have more money, like Taylor's suggesting. But I don't know. There's got to be a balance.
You have a federal government where the bottom 50% of federal taxpayers only pay $63 billion in annual taxes. That is less than 2 months of tariffs. They're not paying anything. And we need to cut healthcare spending, but instead we just got checks for babies and Obamacare super subsidies. We're Denmark without the value-added tax. That is the definition of insanity.
I think this is all about direction, not destination. We know the math doesn't add up, but it's the idea of pro-growth policies. And furthermore, this is really just an advertisement to the Supreme Court. If you unwind these tariffs, I'm just going to pay it out as dividends, baby. If you keep it, I'm going to pay down debt. So we can pay down the debt one of two ways. We can have massive growth through handing out these dividend checks, in which case we're going to inflate it away. Or we can be responsible about it and keep the tariff income coming in, and we will use that money to pay down debt. up to you, Mr. and Mrs. Supreme Court. That's the way it's going to be. But the name of the game here is people are afraid of inflation, they're afraid of yields, and it's recency bias. What we had with COVID inflation was a unique situation of ongoing checks and supply chain disruption, and people locked in their house with nothing else to do but order goods. That's not going to be the case this time, predominantly because of the most important policy, which is the energy policy. You keep energy low. The Saudis respect this administration. They have been towing the line and keeping production up. If oil stays down, they can get away with murder. They can hand out dividend checks till the cows come home. The supply chain is not going to be disrupted, and we are going to grow above trend, just like we did post-World War II. The last time we had debt to GDP at 120%, we basically grew our way and inflated a little bit, 3 to 5% inflation by 1957, debt to GDP dropped to 63% from growth and letting the economy run hot. Like Larry Kudlow always says, let it rip. And that's exactly what this administration is going to do with the dream team of Hassett and Bessent.
That's your prediction.
I think that's the way it's going to go. He's going to go as low. He's going to be like,
We shall discuss this.
yeah.
Yeah, the getting away with murder, that was figurative.